those who
Hello, hello, everyone. It is Wednesday, my favorite day. I hope everyone is having a bright and sunny day like I am here in Louisville, Kentucky. We know that Hannah is in Dubai and we still got some unfortunate things happening there, but you're safe and well, and we're glad to see you here again this week too. So glad you're here.
Thank you, Stephanie. Yes, I will say, while it's sunny in Louisville, it has been raining in Dubai for 2 days, which is crazy. And this light is the only sun I've been getting. But I'm excited for our chat today.
I am too, because branded residences, you all, is what we're going to be talking about today, and how people are building long-term wealth with the branded residences. Everybody's like, wait a minute, what's branded residences? Well, come on, this is the intersection of luxury, strategy, and long-term wealth planning, because what branded residents are is exactly what it sounds like. Okay, these are lifestyle purchases in beautiful buildings with 5-star service and global names, right? Just like people get to say, oh, pull up my Bentley, well, they get to say, I live in, and then there's a ton of different brands. And we're going to dive into so many of those today, because we're going to talk about how they're structured assets. We're going to talk about how the reputation is there because of the reputation of the brand itself, the liquidity enhanced holdings that these brands carry, the legacy components. And I'm excited, and I know this is going to be one of your favorite webinars, Hannah, because you absolutely love branded residences, and you've now made it a goal that that's where you're going to reside one day, right?
Absolutely. We're going to explore how branded residences can play actually a strategic role in long-term wealth planning, and when do they truly make sense. Because they're really not just about finishes or logos. They're about how that brand alignment can influence the value, the stability, and the long-term positioning. So we're going to break down how they fit into some serious wealth planning. And yes, exactly as you said, that's definitely my goal. I love the fact that when you live in a branded residence, you don't have to worry about anything. So that's my favorite part. But let's start with clarity. What exactly qualifies as a branded residence?
Well, a branded residence is that residential development that is affiliated with a globally recognized brand. It's typically one of those hospitality brands, or a fashion brand, an automotive brand now, or a lifestyle brand. And so you might have seen, obviously Ritz-Carlton is a big name out there. In fashion, you're starting to see the Gucci, the Fendi, all kinds of different fashion brands. Automotive, we were just talking about the Porsche building, the Austin Healey. There's so many different ones that are popping up in Miami here in the US, but all over the globe. And so these are examples, are those luxury hotel brands, high-end fashion houses, the automotive brands, designer partnerships, and they provide design oversight. Okay, these brands don't own the hotels or the buildings or the resorts or the villas that are being created in these developments, but they have design oversight. They set the service standards. They might manage, or at least have oversight over the management, but what they do have is that market reach and that global recognition as well too. And so there's a critical distinction, and that is not all branded residences are structured the same way. Some brands are deeply operational, and then others, it's just purely licensed, okay? Meaning they're borrowing the name just to get that added clout.
I love that you use that word. Definitely, we're seeing a lot of them. And I know if our viewers go to airdomo.com, we have the new Cavalli development by Damak here in Dubai that is just gorgeous. And looking at it, I mean, it's amazing. Everyone has their own pool. It's just, for me, the most beautiful to look at. So there's a lot of very different ones that are very exciting that look amazing, but sometimes, most of the time, branded residences do command premiums. Why is that?
Several reasons. Okay, first off, brand recognition. That's going to reduce buyer uncertainty because international buyers are going to feel safer purchasing something associated with a globally trusted name. Okay, it's an insurance policy because here's the thing. They're not going to allow for the name to be used unless they have vetted this project. Okay. Secondly, service infrastructure. Branded residences often include that concierge service, property management built in, rental programs built in as well, to where you don't have to worry about, am I going to get my place rented? They're going to handle that for you. They also have built-in security and maintenance standards. Third is the global reach. Branded projects are marketed internationally and they're expanding that resale buyer pool. Fourth, quality control expectations. The brands impose the standards on design and execution. So that the product's going to get delivered the way that it's set forth in that pre-construction, advertised, and design phase. So all of that translates into pricing power because you are going to get what you pay for with a branded residence.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. The premium is not just aesthetic, it's the structure that it gives, which is exactly what you want as a buyer who doesn't like the risk. So let's talk about the branded residences and their actual long-term value. How do they perform long-term compared to the non-branded luxury?
Historically, the branded residences often demonstrate the higher liquidity, stronger international resale demand, lower perceived risk, and more consistent rental demand. They tend to hold value well during any downturn because global buyers still recognize the brand. Look, I have buyers that reach out to me and say, Stephanie, we want to buy another, and then they mention that brand. That's all they'll look for. Okay. That is what they follow. That is what they feel comfortable with. That is some of these brands even determine what the furniture is going to be inside, right? Even down to
Yes.
the mattresses. And so they don't want to think about it. A lot of them, they want to write the check and they want to lay their head down and they want to know that it's all handled and taken care of. It's just that extra level. And so premiums matter, right? And if a buyer overpays purely for the brand without considering the fundamentals, the upside obviously can compress. But again, this is the brand supports the value and it can be smart buying, okay, for those people. And then there's a lot of times where you've got these branded residences where, let's say you buy a branded residence in Bahamas and that branded residence has a sister property, let's say in Grand
Oh,
Cayman.
yeah.
You can say, okay, I'll give you a couple weeks here. I want to have a couple weeks over there and do these trades internally. So you're not stuck always going to the same place. We're not talking about timeshares though, folks. That's something that's completely different and nothing that we deal in. This is you getting deed to the properties. Okay.
Yes, definitely. And I think that level of I don't have to think about it is what I personally like about it. Because if I buy a branded residence and know that everything that is inside is going to be taken care of, and I know that when I walk into the bedroom, that mattress is going to be great,
Yes.
and it's going to be premium and it's going to be quality, that is exactly the level of ease and peace of mind that is attractive to me.
You're
But
gonna know the
we,
shower head in the bath, right? All of
yeah.
those things are determined.
Exactly. So when we tie that into wealth planning, how do branded residences fit into that long-term wealth planning?
Well, they serve as a multiple strategic role, okay? Capital preservation, geographic diversification, currency diversification, lifestyle flexibility, an intergenerational asset transfer. Because branded properties often sit in prime global cities or resort destinations, they provide geographic stability within a luxury portfolio. Okay. For the high net worth buyer, they often act as an anchor property in a major city, that trophy lifestyle holdings that, they can say, oh, I've got a $34 million condo in Cape Bay, or a rental performing luxury asset with a yacht slip attached, right? Or that legacy holding for heirs later. They combine that with the emotional and financial value. But a lot of times with the branded residences, what I will say, the ones that allow for the rental or have the built-in rental, those are some great returns on your investment. I'm not going to say they're going to pay it back right away, because there might, you are paying a premium, but you will have rental income because they're attached usually to a resort, if that makes sense.
Yes, the rental management system in some of them is definitely something that's amazing, because another peace of mind, something you don't have to think about, that is just making you money, right?
Yeah.
Now, I know this is true, but to what extent and what level do branded residences reduce risk?
Well, it can reduce certain types of risk: operational inconsistency, management quality issues, marketing visibility challenges, and then tenant quality concerns. Okay. But brand won't eliminate market cycles risk, developer risk, overvaluation risk, or regulatory risk. Those are still going to remain out there. So something that you always have to investigate. So the right mindset is brand reduces friction, not risk entirely. Okay.
Definitely. So how do branded residences actually connect with the mobility and legacy planning that we were talking about?
In many cases, branded residences sit in globally mobile markets. So you can support residency pathways in some jurisdictions. You can provide secure, high quality second bases. You can appeal to international heirs. And from a legacy perspective, branded properties often maintain broad appeal. So they're easier to resell across many generations. Sitting in globally recognized locations also helps. And so a brand is never going to attach their name in the middle of nowhere. Okay.
Yeah.
They're always going to sit in recognized locations that you can get to. And so that's going to make them simpler to transfer or divest compared to niche luxury assets.
Definitely. Now, against what I'm saying, let's be balanced. When might branded residences just not make sense and not be the right choice?
Well, they're not going to suit a buyer who is purely yield focused, because not all of them are going to make back that type of money. Some of these branded residents you need such a big check that it's just never going to have that kind of rental income. Okay. So there's always certain ones, right? So if you're purely yield focused, it may not be the right thing. If you want maximum price appreciation in the early stage markets, probably not going to happen there either. Okay. But if you prefer that value add renovation, if you're highly fee sensitive, those probably aren't going to work either, because here's the thing, you don't get concierge, you don't get personal chefs, you don't get pools and tennis courts and pickleball and golf for free, right? It has fees attached to it, and you've got to pay for those. And so branded residences are often going to have higher HOA fees. They're going to have service charges, and you've got to pay management fees. Okay. And so you have to take those into consideration on top of that purchase price. And those things are happening monthly, they're happening quarterly, or they're happening yearly, but they're happening, and they're happening always. And those have, they can go up and they can come down, but for the most part, they're going to go up because things tend to increase. And so if the buyer's primary goal is aggressive growth or low cost ownership, Non-branded opportunities will probably outperform the branded opportunities, okay? But with the branded, you've got all of those things built in. And so everything's relative, which is why you have to run these models. If you are yield focused, it could and can happen with a branded residence, but you have to run the financial model. And that's something that we can do here for you at AirDomo.
Definitely, that makes sense. Now, basically, what you're saying is if you want room service to your apartment, you got to be prepared to pay for it, which I'm fine with. Let's talk about how to evaluate a branded project properly to close this off. So, if someone is considering a branded residence, what should they evaluate?
Is the brand operationally involved or is it licensed only? So, are they present and are they overseeing management, or is it just the name on the building? Okay. What is the historical performance of similar branded projects? How large is the brand premium relative to comparable properties? And then are rental programs optional or are they mandatory? What are the long-term fee structures? And critically, would this property still make sense without the logo? That's a huge one, you guys, because look, I have seen people build, I think I mentioned this on one of our webinars, but it was a 8-story building, and I'm looking at the set of plans and it's under construction and they're going to put a brand on it, and I'm not going to call them out and I'm not going to say the brand. And I said, "Where's the elevator?" And the developer said, "There isn't one." And I said, "What? Who's going to climb 8 floors with groceries and luggage
My
and
goodness.
booze? Nobody. I don't care what brand
Not
you
me.
have on that building, right?" So you have to say, would this property still make sense without the logo? Okay. Hell
Yeah.
no, not on that one, right?
Not with my knees. I'm not climbing 8
And you're
stories.
and you're 29, Hannah, so imagine.
Exactly. I can only imagine. Thank you, Stephanie. This conversation really did show us how branded residences can move from that aspirational purchases to strategic wealth with the right components. So, for everyone watching, if you are considering a branded residence and want to understand how it fits into your long term wealth strategy, whether it's for preservation, diversification, or legacy, we are definitely here to help. There is a lot of them right now on airdomo.com. They're all beautiful. I want them all, and so will you when you see them. I want to thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you in the next session.
Bye, y'all.